Be sure to check out my Patreon for weekly exclusive interviews, extra content on Veve and Ecomi, and building generational wealth, as well as money management tips from experienced whales. Yo, what is going on, y'all? I'm Cavell Anderson, and we're back with another Veve and Ecomi video. Well, kinda. This is actually the legend, Alfred Kahn. He actually did another interview like a month or two ago, and it was missed. Like, nobody actually noticed in the community. So yeah, shout out to the homie Dan who sent this to me. Yeah, this is dope. So we're going to be checking it out. I have not watched it yet. Y'all know, listen, I got to watch it with y'all for the first time. We got to see what's happening here, what's going on. I wonder if I just want to hear what he has to say, because I've never heard him outside of like a Veve setting. And I want to know if he like brings up Veve, if he mentions it, if it's a part of his daily conversations and stuff. You know what I mean? So this interview, to my knowledge, is, let's see, empowering future generations to empower others. So I don't think this is necessarily about anything that should direct back to Veve, but I want to see if we can make some connections out of the things that he says, so we can really see if he's like all the time this is on his mind. Like, what, like where's his mind at, where's his head at? I'm wondering. So yeah, that being said, as always, be sure to drop that thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you stay updated with everything going on the channel. And yeah, let's jump straight into it.
This is Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneurs the Playbook, and have I got a treat. Alfred Kahn, he is the CMO of Veve, CMO of Veve.
I mean, that didn't take too long. Yeah, and I mean, hey, that was pretty quick. Veve was already mentioned in the first 9 seconds. This guy's going places.
The Prince. He is the chairman of Kidtageous Entertainment, but he is someone who
it's amazing he put Veve before anything
I look up
else.
to as a philanthropist, humanitarian. He's changing the world. He understands capitalism and the purpose of capitalism better than any other entrepreneur that by coincidence I met. There are no coincidences. Welcome to the Playbook, Alfred.
Thank you very much, David. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I got to give a little background to everyone. I'm sitting at the last minute, invited to this extraordinary foundation event for the Thanksgiving Day parade. And
listen, when Alfred Kahn take your spot, you don't say nothing. You get up and move. when Big Al take your spot, listen, you don't, I ain't gonna move. Nah, go ahead. I will move, sir.
I was so excited at all my children in New York City, and unbeknownst to me, I sit down to learn about the First Responding Children's Foundation, and where, you know, it supports my cousin is on the board, and he says, Dave, you're really gonna love this. You know, everything that you do for our first responders. We're doing a movie about first responders with Angelo Pizzo, who did Rudy and Hoosiers, and Dave, you're gonna love this. And I went, you know, to support the foundation, but also to be right there on the parade. And all of a sudden, I hear this story about Alfred Kahn, and someone who grew up kind of like me with nothing and had built this empire by hard work, by being honest, with character, and had his trials and tribulations in life. And all he was doing now with his successes was giving back. And I'm going to start with the success side of things, with what you're doing with Prince, Veve, and of course your entertainment company. But what has inspired you to continue to do these things? I'd love a little bit of the background that I got to hear of your story as a child, of, you know, that circumstance that causes you to have the desire that you must be what you can be.
Well, thank you, David. I'm honored to hear your remarks. I don't deserve them, but thank you for them. Well, when I was growing up, and I was growing up on Long Island, and it was in a town, and my father was diagnosed with stomach cancer, and I was about, I guess 12, 14. And obviously the prognosis for that type of an illness then was pretty much horrible. And eventually, he passed away on Christmas, and I was, I think, 15. And he had not really planned really for the family. No disrespect. So my mother didn't have any money. There was really no money coming in. So I had to, start doing things to try and help that family. But I also put together a situation that said, I don't want to be in this situation, my whole life. I don't want to be in this place where I don't know if I could. It was literally, I don't know if I was going to be able to have the next meal. It was really pretty crazy. And also, I wanted, if I was going to have kids, I wanted them to have the experiences that I saw everybody else having, where they went away on spring break, where they did this and that, which I never could do. So that was really the impetus to try and figure out how to make a living,
And as you did that, you made a living. You had one of the most successful companies bringing in some of the biggest names and brands into America. And well, I'll let you tell what those were. But then 9/11 hits, and somehow this strikes a chord of your loss that you received in 15 years old, and you went on a journey that wasn't as easy as it would seem to support our first responders because it meant so much to you, but you actually faced resistance for your efforts. And, it just shows that, sometimes the universe says, how much do you really want this? Tell me about your success, in your first business, and why the 9/11 situation really, inspired you to reach out and to fight. You had to literally fight to help.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, long story short, when I graduated college, and I went to the Army, and I got out of the Army, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I got a job as a buyer trainee with a company called B. Gertz on Long Island, the department store chain. And at that time, department stores were the business models, right? You had, all these department store chains. And in process of being, trained, they'd flip you from department to department to department. And eventually I got flipped into the toy department. And I was awestruck by what the toy department was. It was like the whole world was in this toy department, because everything that happens in the adult world ultimately gets translated down to a toy. And so I saw, washing machines and clothing, and I said, this is what I want to do. So eventually became the toy buyer for them. And then got a little bit of reputation of being able to pick things pretty well. And I was hired by a company called Coleco. And Coleco was a swimming pool manufacturer. And I put them into a number of different things. I put them into electronics, which at that time was just starting, handheld games, a lot of licensed products, got the first license for Smurfs, for them. And in the process, I found an artist in Cleveland, Georgia, who was developing this product where they would adopt a one-of-a-kind, doll. So I bought the rights, created something called Cabbage Patch Kids. So that was the first thing that really, I really was able to do. But I also, after I left Coleco, I decided, that sounds crazy today, Dave, but it said that the future is going to be television for kids. At that time, there wasn't any cable.
Right.
There was like four, I think, broadcast networks. And I believed that television was going to be the driver, for kids to purchase products. And I got involved with that. And I also believed that a lot of the stuff that we were going to be using would be coming from the Asian market.
So that's crazy. So he was a visionary as well. He saw something before he came. He saw an industry before he came. He said, this is going to be the driving market for kids. And he said something similar where he saw this same thing with Veve and this metaverse and this stuff being the next step towards the next future. So honestly, this makes me a lot more bullish, like even more bullish, because I know we have Al Kahn and stuff like that. I know that's already bullish enough as it is, but we have one visionary who has already predicted this before. And then we have another visionary, David Yu, who predicted the NFT boom and all of this stuff. And so we have two visionaries. That's like having Steve Jobs and freaking it's two visionaries. It's like having Steve Jobs and freaking Bill Gates. It's like, it's insane. It's sick. It's a cheat code.
So I spent a lot of time in one of my first clients for kids was Nintendo. They hired me as their licensing company because I knew them through Coleco. And I went to Japan all the time, and I saw a concept called Pocket Monsters in Japan, which was really successful. And I said, wow, this is interesting. And I found out that in Japan, everything's owned by consortiums, right? There's like 4 or 5 companies. And I found out one of the companies that owned this thing was Nintendo. So I approached them about, can I get the rights to bring pocket marches out to the rest of the world? And they went, no way, no chance, not doing it, because it's something the American kids will never get, because it's a role-playing game at that time, which meant you would get something in writing, you had to respond in writing, et cetera, et cetera. But there was a card game, of course, and everything else. Well, it took me a long time to convince them that we should give it a shot. They were afraid, as the Japanese always are, of failure. They were afraid that if something didn't work, it would be on their back. And I said, okay, look, we'll launch it under 4Kids Entertainment. I will be the front man. If it bombs, it's my bomb, And I gave them a substantial amount of money based on what I had at that time. And then, we launched it, but it was also a big pain in the neck. No one wanted it because it was anime. No one knew what the hell, they'd never seen anime. So getting it on television was a problem. Getting licenses were a problem. But look, it exploded. It's now the...
Can't imagine living in a world where no one knows what anime is. Sounds like it sucked back then. That's great. I do remember when I first started seeing Dragon Ball Z on TV and stuff like that. It was lit. Like the old school animes like Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, the Pokemon. Yeah, that was fire. I don't think Digimon count. Does Digimon count as anime? I don't know. Beyblades, that was my stuff back in the day. Rurouni Kenshin, Yu Yu Hakusho. Y'all don't know nothing about that.
Number one property in the history of the kids business in the world is up to about $170 billion in sales. And that led me to, all kinds of other things, whether it be Yu-Gi-Oh, Ninja Turtles. I also started branding for, all kinds of brands, whether it be World Wrestling Federation, James Bond. So that grew into that particular parameter. When 9/11 hit, of course, the whole city was aghast. I was actually got a call, because I've always been involved with law enforcement foundations. So I got a call that morning from the DEA Foundation that said, you want to go down, there's an accident at Twin Towers. And initially, they thought it was an accident. And they said the plane went into the tower, but it was, so would you like to go see it? And I said, sure. They picked me up in a car. We're driving down the FDR Expressway, and all of a sudden another plane hits the second tower. And all of a sudden they realized it's a terrorist attack. So we were whisked back to the DEA headquarters, which we were locked in for about 7 hours while they figured out what to do, everything else. And then, of course, everybody in the city, all the major companies were trying to figure out what to do to help the people that were involved with that particular tragedy. And of course, one of my first board members was the guy that ran the Twin Towers Fund. So he basically was responsible for raising hundreds of millions of dollars to help the first responders who were involved in that particular scenario. But then it hit me that, unlike myself, when you lose a parent at a young age, it's a really defining moment, because then you don't get the experiences that those people have. So, for instance, how many kids are successful because their parents helped them establish not only what's important, but how you do it. So I felt that, wow, these kids, were 800 kids at least, that had lost a parent that morning. And what was going to happen to them? I wasn't worried about them necessarily financially, but emotionally. And how do you deal with the loss of a parent? And especially going into the holiday season, because we're going into Thanksgiving. I didn't know anybody at City Hall, so I called up. I got this idea. I took my car and I drove down the parade route, and I saw there was a restaurant called ESPN Zone at that time. Yep. That was on the parade route. So I called them and I said, what do you do on Thanksgiving morning? He said, we're closed because of the parade. I said, whoa, could you be open? Could you be open? And he says, yeah, we could be open. How many people do you seat? Do you seat 1,200 people or something like that? I said, I'm going to put a tentative hold on this. I'm not sure I could pull this off. So I called the mayor's office. Well, I knew no one at the mayor's office. And I got this guy, right, who was this guy named Larry, who was the mayor's general counsel, Larry Levy. And I said to him, look, I have an idea. What happens if I would rent out the ESPN Zone and you invited every family in the first responder community who had lost someone at 9/11? I will supply tons of toys. I'll pay for the breakfasts, and basically no publicity. just they get together and we have some, at least the kids will have some fun. The parents will be obviously very difficult. Well, he told me, look, here's about the 90th person that's offered to do something. Most of you people are full of prunes. How do I know you're real? And I said, good question. I don't know what to say to you. I don't know what to say. But he went to talk to the mayor. They vetted me out and they said, okay, we'll do it. And we had about 1,200 people that first breakfast. It was the saddest day because you had the mayor, you had the commissioners, you had people from Washington, and everybody's hysterical, right? Everybody's crying. But the kids who were really young, a lot of these kids were 3, 4 years old. They couldn't get over it. They were sitting on the curb to watch the parade. Yeah. There was a game room in the ESPN zone. And after that first event, I started thinking about what happens to these kids every year. It's going to be something that's going to stay with them for a long time. And also, what happened to kids who lost parents before 9/11? What happened to kids who lose parents after 9/11? That were first responders. So I decided to form a foundation that would help, whatever way we could. And thanks to people like your cousin and the difference that the president of the foundation, who happens to be my wife, it's grown exponentially. And then when COVID hit, my wife said we have to pivot to COVID, and we got very lucky because we started to set up a COVID-19 relief fund, and iHeartRadio was running that concert with all the celebrities for the first responder. And we became their charity partner on that, and that drove us to raising millions and millions of dollars, of which we gave out for PPE, for emergency grants to first responders, hotel rooms. First responders didn't want to take the disease home to their children, so we put them in the hotels. We gave out all kinds of things. And of course, we always gave out.
I actually didn't know Al Kahn did so much, man. I didn't know that he was like really out here doing a lot of stuff like this. Like all you hear about him is like his toys and what he does with licensing and stuff like that. All you know about is that history, really. I didn't know he was so involved. Like that's not usually what he gets praised for. That's crazy. Like this man's amazing.
Scholarships and emergency grants. So it became apparent that our mission is not really going to be complete in that regard. So we then continued to evolve. Now, in the process, I always am looking for new things relative to a business model.
Yep.
And another crazy story. I had a guy that I had met, I don't know, during the Pokemon days.
Sounds like he's getting into Veve. This is a good segue. Well, to end the video, we're going to be having a part 2 to this video. We're going to be checking out what's said next. Let me know what you all think. I don't want it to be too long. As always, man, be sure to drop that thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And yeah, I'm going to catch you all in the next one. Peace out, Joe.